Hello, Nigerians. We have a breaking news, and this is very serious. Right now, as I speak to you, the people of Osun State are at the polls, deciding who will govern them for the next 4 years. And what happens in that state today will tell us a great deal about where this country is heading before 2027. I want you to stay with me till the very end of this report, because we are going to break down everything: the facts, the allegations, the numbers from INEC, and what the different camps are saying, and I don't want you to miss any part of it. This news concerns Osun State, one of the most politically sensitive states in the southwest, where Governor Adeleke of the Accord party is fighting to keep his seat against Bola Oyebamiji of the APC and Najim Salam of the ADC. And it is happening at a very delicate moment, barely a year to the 2027 general election, when every alliance, every result, every headline from today will be used as ammunition by all the parties involved. Before I go into the details, let me first ask you, if you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to NAIJA News Online, and turn on your notifications so that anytime something significant happens in this country, you will be among the first to know. Now, let's go back to the news. Here is what you need to understand first. This election, known as #OsunDecides2026, is the last off-cycle governorship poll before the country moves into the 2027 general election season. Voting is happening across all 30 local government areas of Osun State, and INEC says over 2.3 million people registered to vote, with more than 1.9 million of them collecting their permanent voter cards ahead of today. 15 political parties fielded candidates originally, though 2 of them withdrew before today: Adesina Adeyemi of APGA and Simon Adewale of APM. Adeyemi moved his support to the APC's Oyebamiji, while Adewale threw his weight behind the incumbent Adeleke. Interestingly too, the PDP, a party that used to be very strong in Osun, did not field a candidate this time around. Now, here is why analysts across the country are watching this one closely. This is the third major election since the new Electoral Act 2026 was signed by President Bola Tinubu in February, after similar tests in the FCT Area Council and in Ekiti State. So, beyond who becomes governor, today is also a test of credibility for INEC's chairman, Professor Joash Amopitan, who took office just last year. If this election is seen as credible, it will strengthen confidence ahead of 2027. If it is not seen as credible, Nigerians will remember, and it will shape how people trust the process next year. That is the stage. Now, let's go into what has actually happened on the ground today. Let me first tell you what is documented, what is confirmed, before we move into the claims and the allegations, because as a serious platform, we must separate the two. According to INEC's own official update posted on their account this morning, the Registration Area Center activation, that is, the process of getting all the electoral materials ready, was completed at exactly 6:09 p.m. on Friday evening across all 332 RACs in Osun State. That is documented. That is a fact. On the ground, our correspondents and multiple outlets reported that voters began arriving as early as 7:10 to 7:20 a.m. in places like Osogbo, the state capital, and in Ede, the hometown of the incumbent governor. By 8:30 a.m., accreditation and voting officially commenced across the state. Now, here is a specific figure for you, directly from INEC's own situation report. Out of 3,763 polling units in Osun State, 3,556 of them, that is 94.5%, had opened by 8:30 a.m. The remaining 207 units, representing 5.5%, experienced minor delays, but INEC says all of them became operational by 9 a.m. INEC, in its own words, described the deployment and opening process as peaceful and orderly. That is what the Commission itself is saying. Whether that holds up for the rest of the day, that is what we will find out together. Now, let's talk about the 3 main candidates themselves, because all of them have voted today, and each one spoke to reporters after casting their ballot. Governor Ademola Adeleke arrived at his polling unit, Unit 009, Ward 2, Agbogunde Sagba in Ede North Local Government Area at about 8:30 a.m. He went through accreditation like every other voter and then cast his vote. The APC candidate Bola Oyebamiji voted at Ward 9, Unit 11 in Ekire, Ireole local government area, alongside his wife, Sekinat. Speaking after voting, Oyebamiji commended INEC and the security agencies for what he called a peaceful process so far, and he appealed to Osun residents to remain calm as voting and collation continue. And the ADC's Najim Salam voted at his own polling unit in Ejigbo, a polling unit, I must tell you, that later became the center of one of the most tense moments of the day, and we'll come back to that shortly. Before that incident, though, Salam had already raised concerns, alleging what he described as discrimination against ADC agents at some polling units, while at the same time denying accusations that his own party engaged in vote buying. So, all three major candidates have voted. All three on record have called for peace. But as you will hear next, peace and reality are not always the same thing in some parts of Osun today. Now, this next part, I want you to listen very carefully because I'm going to separate clearly for you what is confirmed and what is allegation. Shortly after casting his vote, Governor Adeleke spoke to newsmen and made some very serious claims. He alleged that police officers were tear-gassing voters in some areas, specifically naming Modakeke and Obaku, in what he described as an attempt to scare people away from the polls. He went further to accuse the All Progressives Congress of trying to rig the election and claimed the police were aiding the party instead of remaining neutral. Adeleke also made a specific claim about one police officer said to have been deployed from Port Harcourt, whom he alleged was going by the nickname London, and whom he accused of being brought in to disrupt the process and intimidate voters in Ede. He called on the Inspector General of Police and other security agencies to take note and act. Now, I must be very clear with you, these are allegations from one candidate, the incumbent governor, and as of the time of this recording, they have not been independently confirmed by the police, by INEC, or by any neutral observer group. This is Adeleke's account in his own words as broadcast live. That does not make it false, but it also does not make it established fact. We are still working to establish exactly what happened in Modakeke and Obaku, and we will update you as more comes in. Now, this next one is confirmed by multiple witnesses and video footage, and it is serious. Voting was disrupted in Ejigbo, Osun State, after violence broke out at a polling area during the election. According to reports from the scene, the trouble started after a group of youths discovered materials they alleged were linked to vote buying and which they said were connected to the APC. The youths say they seized the materials because, in their words, they could not stand by and watch what they called an illegal act take place. The situation escalated when people said to be connected to those materials arrived and allegedly tried to whisk one of the youths away. From there, tension rose quickly. Voters, residents, and INEC officials scattered for safety as the situation got out of hand. Video footage from the scene showed people running in different directions with motorcycles and vehicles moving through the crowd as people tried to escape. As of the time of this report, it remains unclear whether anyone was injured in the Ejigbo incident. I must remind you, this is not the first violent incident tied to this election cycle. Just 2 days before today's vote, on August 13th, one person was killed and another injured in Osun, with the APC and the Accord party trading blame over who was responsible. So the tension we are seeing today did not start today, it has been building. Now, let's talk about an allegation that has been building for days and which Punch newspaper has reported in detail. Accusations of a straight cash contest between the two leading parties. According to Punch, both the All Progressives Congress and the Accord Party have been accused of widespread vote buying in the run-up to today's election, with voters reportedly offered sums ranging from 10,000 to 20,000 naira. What makes this allegation notable is the timing. Punch reports that, unlike in previous Osun elections, this cash distribution allegedly began about 6 days before the vote, earlier than has typically been recorded. In specific communities, the allegations get even more detailed. In Ila, residents reportedly said APC agents offered 15,000 naira per eligible voter, while Accord agents allegedly went as high as 20,000. Some residents also claimed that political agents collected their bank account details in advance, with plans to make payments after votes were cast. Field monitors deployed by the Center for Journalism, Innovation and Development reported similar patterns in places like Atakumosa East and Orolu, including voters allegedly being asked to write down their account numbers. Now, I must stress this clearly. These are allegations gathered from voters, party agents, and field monitors on the ground. Both major parties have, in various statements, denied wrongdoing or accused the other side of the very same conduct. The APC has separately accused the state government of using 20,000 naira palliative payment to influence workers, a claim the government has rejected, describing the payments as a pre-negotiated palliative package unrelated to the election. The police, for their part, have publicly warned that vote buying is a criminal offense under the Electoral Act and that anyone caught faces prosecution. Now, here's a story that has pulled entertainment and politics together, and it has been trending since the early hours of this morning. Afrobeat star Davido, David Adeleke, nephew of Governor Ademola Adeleke, has alleged that soldiers were trying to stop him from entering Osun State ahead of today's election. Davido made the claim in a post on his verified X account shortly after midnight, writing that he had been reliably informed soldiers were trying to prevent his entry into the state, and insisting that every Nigerian citizen has the right to freedom of movement. This came after the singer had traveled to the United Kingdom to headline a concert in London on Friday night and was expected to return to Osun in time for the election. Now, here's the important context. The Nigeria Police Force had already announced ahead of time a general restriction on movement across Osun State running from midnight on Friday, August 14th until 6 p.m. on Saturday, August 15th, a standard security measure used during elections across Nigeria, not something unique to Osun or to Davido specifically. That context is exactly why the reaction to Davido's claim was divided. Former presidential media aide Bashir Ahmad publicly dismissed the singer's allegation, describing it as dramatic and pointing out that the movement restriction had already been widely announced as part of standard security arrangements. As of the time of this report, there has been no official statement from the military confirming or denying that Davido personally was targeted. So what we have here, clearly, is an allegation from a high-profile campaign supporter met with public skepticism from at least one known commentator against the backdrop of a security measure that applied to the entire state, not to any one individual.
Now, I want to bring you a security incident that adds further weight to the tension surrounding this election: an attack on a traditional ruler's palace in Ire, Osun State. According to the monarch himself, speaking with newsmen, the incident occurred at about 2 a.m. when 2 Sienna vehicles allegedly arrived at the palace. The occupants reportedly fired shots into the air before shooting directly at the palace gate. This is a first-hand account from the monarch, and as of this report, it remains under investigation, with no arrests publicly confirmed and no official statement yet from the police attributing a specific motive to the attack. This incident does not stand alone. Remember what we told you earlier, that in the days leading up to today's vote, Osun recorded multiple killings linked to election tension, including deaths near Ilesa and in Boluwadoro, and the death of a relative of the APC's governorship campaign director general in Adeleke. In response, soldiers with armored personnel carriers were deployed to flashpoints, including the Osun-Kwara boundary, Adeleke, Ilesa, and Ikoyi. So, When you put the Ire Palace attack alongside the Ejigbo disruption, the killings reported before today, and the heavy military deployment across flashpoints, a clear picture emerges. This is an election that security agencies themselves recognized in advance as high risk. Whether the palace attack is directly connected to the governorship contest or is a separate, unrelated security matter
is something we do not yet know for certain, and we will not speculate. What is certain is that it is happening on the same night, in the same state, at the same moment Osun is choosing its next governor. Now, as a responsible platform, we must give you the fuller picture, not just one side. While Governor Adeleke is alleging police complicity and attempted rigging, the APC's Bola Oyebamiji, when he spoke after voting, painted a completely different picture, at least from where he stood. He said his own assessment, particularly at his unit in Ikire, was that everything was proceeding peacefully, and he specifically praised INEC and security operatives for what he called their professionalism. And remember too, INEC's own official statement, the one we told you about earlier, described the overall opening and deployment process across the state as peaceful and orderly, with over 94% of polling units opening on schedule. So here is the tension in this story. You have the incumbent governor alleging state security is being weaponized against him. You have the leading opposition candidate saying from where he stands the process is fair, and you have INEC's official channel describing a largely smooth exercise, even as unrelated pockets of real, documented violence like what happened in Ejigbo are also confirmed. All of these things can be true at the same time in different parts of a state as large as Osun. That is exactly why we don't rush to declare a winner in any argument. We lay out what each side is saying and let the facts, as they emerge, speak for themselves. Now, think about what all of this means for the ordinary man and woman in Osun State today. This is not just politics happening on a television screen. This is real people queuing under the sun since 7 a.m., some of them elderly, some of them young first-time voters, trying to exercise a constitutional right that many Nigerians have fought hard to protect over the years. When China's television reported voters queuing as early as 7:20 a.m. in Osogbo, with separate lines set up for elderly voters and younger voters, that tells you something. Despite the tension, despite the history of violence in this state, ordinary Osun residents still turned out. That takes courage, especially with reports of shootings and clashes hanging over this election even before today. That is why civil society groups have also stepped in. A group called the TAP Initiative for Citizens Development has deployed a citizen monitoring platform, iReport INEC, to track incidents across polling units at real time, covering more than 20% of polling units as of this morning, with actress and activist Kate Henshaw serving as an ambassador for the platform. Think about that for a moment. Ordinary citizens, not politicians, trying to hold the process accountable unit by unit because they understand what is truly at stake. Now, let's zoom out, because this is the part every serious political watcher in Nigeria is paying attention to. Osun is not just Osun today. Osun is a signal. This election is being read by political strategists across the country as an early indicator of alliances and voter sentiment ahead of the 2027 general election. If Adeleke holds on, it strengthens the Accord party's national profile and gives the governor momentum heading into 2027 conversations. If the APC's Oyebamiji wins, it hands the ruling party a symbolic Southwest victory in a state it lost back in 2022, and it becomes a talking point for the party's national strength going into next year. And if Najim Salam or the ADC performs strongly, even without winning, that tells its own story about where opposition energy is shifting. Remember the history here too. In the last governorship election in this state, back in 2022, Adeleke, then of the PDP, defeated the sitting APC governor, Oyebagoya Oyetola by a narrow margin of about 3.5%. Osun has shown before that it can swing. That history is exactly why both major camps are fighting so hard today and why neither side wants to leave anything to chance.
So where does that leave us as this story continues to develop? My honest take is simple. Where there are allegations, whether it is claims of tear gassing, claims of ballot rigging, or claims of discrimination against agents, those allegations deserve full, independent investigation. Not by politicians, not by online commentators, but by INEC, by the police authorities, and where necessary, by the courts. Nigerians deserve a process where claims are tested, not just amplified by whichever side has the bigger microphone. Here is what we are still watching for and what you should watch for too. We are watching for an official police response to Governor Adeleke's specific allegations, including the claim about a deployed officer nicknamed London. We are watching for confirmation of whether anyone was injured in that Ejigbo disruption and whether any arrests follow the vote-buying allegations reported by Punch and field monitors. We are watching for any official military statement addressing Davido's claim about being blocked from entering the state. We are watching for updates on the investigation into the Irie Palace attack. And above all, we are watching for INEC's official coalition figures as they begin to come in from the 30 local government areas, and whether the tension we've documented today stays contained or escalates as counting begins. If this report has helped you understand what is really happening in Osun today, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with somebody, drop your thoughts in the comment section, and if you haven't already, subscribe so you don't miss the next update the moment results start coming in. Osun today is more than an election. It is a test of whether Nigeria's electoral process can hold under pressure, in real time, in front of everybody watching. We will continue to monitor this story as it develops, and the moment there is a credible update on the allegations, on the violence, or on results, you will hear it here first. This has been a special breaking report from NAIJA News Online. I am your anchor, standing with you as this story continues to unfold. Stay alert, stay informed, and above all, stay peaceful. Till the next update, this is NAIJA News Online, signing off.